Garen, are you at a good spot?
Give me like 30 more seconds. Are people still piling in?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Sorry. Just doing some
All
finishing
good.
touches.
No problem.
Okay. All right. I am good to go. How many people do we have in here?
We'll
Eight?
see here in just a second.
Okay. I think I,
Okay,
I
sweet.
invited some people too. I'll make sure that they're coming on.
Amazing. All right, so looks like we are right a little bit after the top of the hour, and as promised, I want to go ahead and tee us up. First of all, let me say a couple of things. If you guys have not met me, I'm Kevin. I'm the head of community for Sequence, and one of the things that is the most fun about a lot of the I get to do a bunch of stuff that I am really excited about, but one of the things that I get to do every now and again is to host these money map spotlights where we bring in experts who put together really thoughtful, innovative money map strategies, and we ask them to take the reins and walk us through the way that they have set their stuff up. In this particular case, I am super excited to be joined by Garen Phillips. Garen, just through dumb luck, we live in the same town, so we actually got a chance to see each other for a hot minute on Saturday and talk a little bit of shop. But um, from the very jump, you guys may or may not know Garen. Garen's got a very popular YouTube channel with 177,000 followers. He's been a real innovator in the small business space, and we're really fired up to have him as a member in our community. But he's also been really generous with. I'm going to talk about you in the third person, Garrett, like you're not here. But but anyway, Garen's also been super generous in just right from the very beginning sharing strategies and pushing the envelope and then helping folks solve challenges that they were up against. And so months ago, I reached out to Garen and said, "Hey, man, we would love to have you on for a money map spotlight." And we haven't really done very many of these, like being fully transparent. Like we haven't done very many of these that have had a small business focus. And that's one of the many specialties that Garen brings to the table. So I'm going to quit bragging on you for a second, but before we get up and running, Garen, I do want to ask you, like, can you share in your own words? Rather, we can do a game of telephone, and I can do a really hacky job of talking about your backstory. But I would much rather let you share that in your own words. Tell people like how we got here, what you've been up to, and what you're about.
All right. First, thanks for having me on here. Real quick though, this isn't just for small business owners. This is also for anybody that's a freelancer or a 1099. So
Awesome.
I'll tell my backstory. But while I'm doing that, can I get I like to read the room and know who I'm talking to. So can I get a one in chat for every business owner or entrepreneur that's in here, and a two in chat for anybody that's currently working a W-2? And while you guys do that, so my background was originally I worked for 12 years in my family's manufacturing facility from 15 to 27 years old. And it's an 80-year-old business. My grandfather started it in his chicken coop. And then I turned in my 2 weeks to my father and told him I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Uh, that blew up in my face and learned a lot of mistakes through that, but eventually figured it out and grew it to about 190,000 subscribers. Currently, it's been inactive for a couple of years because I was in the finance space and I wanted to move away from the finance space just because of the environment that YouTube finance is. And I've moved more into business operations and high ticket sales. So as of now, I'm essentially a growth operator. I build out marketing funnels and sales funnels and marketing pipelines. Um, and I also do high ticket sales. But on top of that, I've always had a passion for finance. You know, that was my first thing that I kind of grew on social media. And I've always kind of been fascinated with the philosophy of money and like how to manage money and how to organize it effectively. And I think I'm into the organizational side of money mostly because I'm really bad at organization. So I've had to learn tools and systems to do that. But yeah, Okay, so it looks like we got one in. Everybody is a small business owner. Real quick, how long have you guys been in business? Can I get like a number of years that you guys have been operating?
I know some of the people who are responding, and so I'm really fascinated to see what they come back with. This will be great. Lot of really smart cookies on this call.
Yeah. Hey, welcome, Sam. Sam's one of my partners actually that I'm working with. I'm building a marketing pipeline with. 8 years venture got acquired. Next venture. Okay, cool. Venture capital is a very interesting realm of finance. It's a very unique style of finance. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and I'm going to start this video with. Well, actually, I don't know if I need to really show this video because you guys are pretty experienced and knowledgeable in business finance. I'm assuming
Hey, Garen,
everybody. Yep.
forgive me for interjecting. I just wanted to also let you know we are streaming, so it's possible that there's some folks who aren't in the room
Oh,
who are have eyes on what we're talking about right now.
okay.
But it's your show,
Okay.
and you can take us wherever you want. But just for
Okay.
context.
All right, so I'll start from the top, assuming, and we'll go through it quickly. If you're a venture capitalist guy, this is probably a bit basic for you, but we'll get through it really quickly. So I'm going to share a video that I produced actually 4 years ago, and I'm just going to go through like the first minute and a half to allow you guys to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be talking about today.
In the world, that's a lot of reading.
So this video
What if
is
you,
called "What I Learned Reading 50 Books on Money."
with a quick Google search, I found there are 129 million books in the world. That's a lot of reading. What if you read the top 50 books on money? Well, that's exactly what I did. My life became amazing. I've traveled around the world, I bought a Lamborghini, and I even live in a small villa. Kidding. I live in Indiana in a single family home still, but I am moving to Austin next week. Reading these books did change my life, though. I went from working in a place like this to owning my own business. I went from only having 4 vacations in 10 years to traveling halfway across the world and spending a month in Thailand. I bought a car in Texas, spent 3 weeks road tripping across America, and made some amazing experiences along the way. And soon I'll be starting a new business, and in the very near future, I'm going to be spending the next 3 to 4 months traveling across the U.S. I wake up every day and do whatever I want. I work for no one, and I only work with who I want to work with. Fun fact, though, I used to hate books. In high school, I only ever read 2 books, and I despised English class. I actually despised the entire American education system, but that's video for another day. The point is, for the first 27 years of my life, I only ever read 2 books, and they weren't about money, and my income definitely reflected that. Let's get to why you're watching this video, though. The best books I read and the most important things I learned. Rich people think differently than you and I. They understand a few things. Taxes will keep you broke, compounding or passive money gives you freedom, and freedom gives you opportunity. Now, when it comes to taxes, you don't need to read a book on accounting or even become a CPA. You just need to understand a few concepts. And the most important one to understand is, if you pay income tax, you'll forever stay middle class. I just realized that rhymed. Let me show you this visually. So what I'm drawing here is a tax calendar. Every box represents a day. They're organized into weeks, and each line is a month. So if you have a regular 9 to 5 job, working 40 hours a week all year, from January 1st to March 16th, every dollar you make goes straight to the government. And that's 2.5 months of the year that you give to the government. Now, compound that over a 40-year lifespan, and that comes out to 5.9 years of your life given to the government. And that's not with weekend vacations or holidays. That's 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5.9 straight years. I'm gonna throw up a chart or two here. Taxes are scaled based on how much you make. If you make 20K a year, this is what it'd look like versus 100K, 150K, 200K, 250K, 300K, and 350K, which is the max tax rate. And here's a chart that shows you how many years of your life you're gonna give to the government based on how much you make per.
Okay, so that's basically the core of what we're going to be talking about through this video. So everything that I do when it comes to financial automation, especially Get Sequenced, is really about being efficient with my time, as time is an inverse of money. So for those that are business owners that have been business owners for a long time, that was probably a bit basic for you. But I'm going to run through a quick slide real quick that I presented, or that I created. And see, make sure it goes to the right slide. All right. So financial automation for businesses. Wealth is not built by making more money. It's built by preserving the money you already have. How to pay less in taxes. Most people that are working a W-2, they get paid, and then that money gets immediately deposited into their personal bank account. And when that occurs, they get taxed. And income tax is the heaviest tax that you can possibly get, as I showed in that video. Now, the way to properly manage money or build wealth is to understand the nuances of having an LLC or a business and moving your money through that business effectively, and then paying your taxes at the end. So you still get taxed, for those of you who aren't business owners that might be watching, you're just taxed at the end of the year rather than every week that you get a paycheck. So with a business account and a business LLC, you're able to move your income directly into that account and then purchase anything that can be proven to be used for business purposes. Now, this is the part where I tell you I am not a CPA and this is not financial advice. I'm just a business owner and this is what I've learned over the years. So anything that has to do anything with your business, from buying assets to services to a car, vehicle, going on trips or networking, education for your business, hiring, payroll, any kind of expense that can be used for your business can be taken out of your business bank account, and that money will not be taxed. The only money that's taxed for you is any profits that are left over, and they're taxed at corporate tax rate, or any money that you transfer back into your personal accounts. So with that said, oh, sorry, didn't mean to stop the screen. I'm going to hop into sequence. So this is a basic playground that I put together. This is basically what my personal sequenced account is set up like. And I've got multiple revenue streams that come into my business. And I like to track those with a different software. So I use Get Sequenced for my routing and managing and budgeting. But I use another software called Finna, which, let me double check that I have that open right now. So Finna is a software developed by one of my friends here in Austin, Texas. And at the end of this video or this call, I'm going to give you guys a subscription eliminator page that essentially I built. But I won't get too much into this software because I want to focus on Get Sequence, but essentially this software is heavily inspired by Notion, if you're familiar with Notion, and it is essentially a customizable financial dashboard that you can build to track your cash flow. It's not great yet for like your balance sheets or having your equity and debt and stuff like that. But as far as cash flow and tracking bank accounts, and Get Sequenced accounts are bank accounts, so you can ingest your Get Sequenced accounts into this software, and it gives you a breakdown of the money and where everything's going in your business. So, for example, this is a subscription eliminator, which will track all of the subscriptions through my business and everything that's going on, and give me a breakdown on what was spent per month, so I can get a rough operating expense cost for that. And there's some other softwares or other ways that you can build this to where you can build a dashboard to track the income that's coming in. But long story short, this software works in tandem for me with Get Sequenced. So when I'm building Get Sequenced, each one of these inbound accounts here, so I've got Marketing Client 1, Marketing Client 2, Airbnb builds, and consulting. Each one of these pods or account inbounds allow me to ingest it into Finna, which then allows me to build a dashboard to track the money that's coming through it. And at the end of the year, I can export all of that as a CVS to my CPA, which makes taxes a breeze when it comes to small business and entrepreneurial taxes. I've used other softwares like Tiller HQ, and I've done TurboTax back in the day. They're all a nightmare, and this is the system that I've come to solve that. So real quick before I continue, is there any questions on this so far?
You guys can also drop questions into chat and we can pick them up throughout. So
Yeah.
however you're comfortable.
Yep. So I love Get Sequenced for managing taxes because I can immediately just set a rule of like 20% of all income that comes into the inbound systems goes to taxes, and then it just sits there as a reserve pod. And whether you're paying your taxes quarterly or yearly, it's very nice to just have this automated and not have to worry about it and not have to manage your books. Then I usually run my money into a main account. This is because sometimes you get multiple inbound streams that are technically still like the same business or the same realm. It really just depends on how you want to organize your money. For example, these two are marketing clients where I build sales funnels and pipelines and processes for them, and I do a revenue split with those partners. Airbnb builds, I'm actually here at an Airbnb. I work with an interior design firm that builds out Airbnbs across the United States, and I track that money separately from my marketing businesses. And then I also have a consulting where I consult people for marketing and media and social media, as well as financial automations. And I want to separate that income as well. And then from there, you can build offshoots of any expenses that you might have for those individual businesses or the softwares and services that you're tracking. And usually the way that I set up these automations for this is I'll do a 100% of the first money that comes in is going to go to expenses. I always like to budget and plan for expenses first, and then remainder profits go to a holding account. So for this, I just do 100%, and you can set a limit per month with Get Sequenced. So only $1,000 is going to go into that marketing budget. That becomes extremely useful when you attach the Finna software to it, and you can actually see the average amount of expenses that are coming through your business every month, and you can kind of get an idea of exactly the dollar amounts that you need to be putting to your expenses and your operating costs. And then the remainder just goes to a business checking account. Now, I personally bank with Mercury. I love Mercury Bank. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into Mercury, but you can build, it's very like one click and you can start a new bank account. There's all kinds of different processes in here, and invoicing and even reoccurring invoicing. It's really nice as a small business owner and entrepreneur. I highly recommend Mercury for that. And I'll also be sending you guys a link to all of this at the end of the call. So from there, typically the way that I structure these accounts is the marketing client 1, marketing client 2, all of these inbound accounts are actually checking accounts inside of Mercury. The reason I don't use add income source on Get Sequenced specifically, because I like to invoice, and Mercury has very nice tracking and analytics for those inbound accounts as well on top of it. So I like to use the Mercury accounts and then automate these pipelines into the pods from the Mercury accounts. The downside of that is you have to wait 3 to 5 business days for the ACH to process, and that's kind of annoying. But I find it's useful to have the Mercury accounts. And then I also use the Mercury accounts as the outbound or final destination of the money coming through. Another little tip too with operating expenses, and this is really useful for hiring. So for those of you who are in a growth phase of your business and you are hiring new employees and stuff, this is something I learned in some book I read. I can't remember what it is, but essentially you can budget your, this is actually operating expenses, but you could start another pod that is new hire expenses. And oftentimes it's kind of stressful to hire a new freelancer or contractor or employee because you haven't set aside or budgeted the money for that employee. But a trick you can do is set up a pod or set up something like this where you have a fixed amount being deposited for the month at $1,700 for operating expenses. But then you can do another rule here where you do 2% of all revenue goes into operating expenses as like a padding. So every month, $1,700 is going to go into that, and then it's going to add and stack a little bit more cash into it as that money grows. But essentially you can start setting aside a small amount of money for your next hire. So that way, when you get into the hiring phase, you don't have to stress about the pay and the budgeting and all that, because you've already set aside thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for that as well. So with that, I'm going to pause because I see we got some stuff here. What's a question?
Question,
So,
Abhinav asked about how you connect. I'm going to just state it because people who are outside of the Zoom call can't see it if they're streaming in. So the
okay.
question from Abhinav is, how do you connect Finna with Sequence?
So Finna is connected with Plaid. So just like how Sequence uses Plaid, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Plaid is kind of the glue that puts all the financial softwares together. So you can just as soon as you start a Finna account, and I'll send you guys a link on this, and you guys can use the pages that I've used. But those pages are essentially templates, just like Notion, so you can load them directly into your account. You just connect your bank account through Plaid, and then it will pull all your financial data. It has an AI that will organize all of your expenses and give you a breakdown on line item. I'm still working on building an actual expense sheet and organizing the expenses for business, because it was originally built for personal finance, and they're working towards business and entrepreneurial finance. But all of that stuff is automated, super easy. You just click a few buttons and you'll connect your accounts. Can Sequence work with QuickBooks? That is a question for you, Kevin.
Yeah, it can.
Okay.
And there's a Jonathan, if you'll shoot me an email at kevin@getsequence.io, and I'll send you the knowledge base article on it.
Okay. So
Okay.
now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of creative financing. So another thing that I love about Get Sequenced is its ability to handle profit splits and revenue splits and waterfall structures for those of you who might be in PE. Who here is actually in private equity or is doing any kind of profit splits or revenue splits, or you have any kind of contractor or partner that you are moving money to those accounts? Is there anybody in here that's doing that?
I don't know. Do we have some high profile lurkers? It's possible.
Okay, well, regardless, I'm going to show you guys a technique I learned from, actually, it comes from private equity investing. I got a friend who runs a $30 million fund in Pennsylvania, and essentially, if you're not familiar with private equity, they have what's called waterfall structures. So if you just Google waterfall structure, typically they take like the first 10% of profit, and then they split it like 80-20, 80-20 to the investors, 20% to the operating team or the team that's managing the fund. The next 10% is split like 50-50, and then everything above 20% profits for the year is split at like a 30-70, 70% to the operators, 30% to the investors. And you can actually structure deals like this where you have scaling revenue or scaling splits to your partners and businesses. So if you're, and this also works to clients as well. So if you're, for example, I do this with my marketing clients. So a lot of people don't like to pay for marketing, and a lot of people are very skeptical of marketers because a lot of people don't deliver on their services and what they say they can do. So sometimes it's hard in negotiations when it comes to pricing and stuff like that. So one of the things that I do to lessen the pricing is I usually say something along the lines of to my clients where I'm like, I honestly prefer to do revenue splits with my clients because it incentivizes me to make you more money. I don't like flat fees for marketing because whether I drive 5 clients to your business or 100 clients to your business for the month, I don't make any more money. So what is my incentive to do a really good job? I'm just going to do the bare minimum to get my retainer, and that's it. And it's just a really bad way to structure marketing. So instead, what I do is I create a waterfall structure where I take a small percentage of money up to a revenue amount, and then I take a larger and larger percentage of revenue as I scale the revenue beyond whatever their current operatings are, and that goes into the negotiations. But for example, let's say I'm negotiating with a client that is doing $500,000 a year, and they want to get to 1.5 million in revenue. Well, I would say, okay, how about this? I will split, I'll do a revenue split with you. And if you don't make any money, I don't make any money. So I'm incentivized to make you money. And I'm going to give you 80% of the first $250,000. So We do quick calculation, $250,000 times 0.8. They're going to make $200,000. I'm going to make $50,000. And these adjust and these can change depending on what the service is, what the industry is, and what the profit margins are, and what the revenue is. All of this stuff is very flexible, but as a baseline, essentially this is an 80-20 split. And the way that I would set this up, and I actually do set this up inside my clients. I actually start their Get Sequenced accounts and help them set this all up and explain to them how it all works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger all funds. Actually, you can do daily or you can do all funds that come in. I prefer to do date. For some reason, I can't remember what the reason is, but there's a reason that I like to do date versus incoming funds. I think there's a bit more functionality on that. I just can't remember what it is. But I'm going to say I'm going to transfer 100% of the money here, but I'm going to do a limit of $250,000 for the year. So this is on a rolling year amount. And one sec, my Zoom thing is getting in my way. So there's that. And then I'm going to do another action, transfer 100% into the next pod, which is 250,000, and I'm going to add a limit. And this is kind of, you have to do the math on this, actually, because you don't want to do $500,000. You want to do the difference between the first waterfall cliff and the second waterfall cliff. So instead of, this is just split into 250, 500 plus, but let's say it was like 100 and then 250. So you would do the first 100,000 limit on the first one, and then you would do 150,000 for the second limit, because you have to subtract the first limit. I hope that doesn't confuse anybody. So 250,000 to the next one, and then the last one is going to be another 100%, and we're just going to transfer 100% into the remaining 500,000 plus, and there's going to be no limit on this one. So any remaining revenue that's going through this pipeline is going to be there. Now, here's where the magic happens. So in these funds, you can trigger by date daily, and what we're going to do is do a percentage, and 80% is going to go to my client, and then the 20% is going to go to my business checking. And actually, I don't send it to my business checking, I send it to one of my Mercury accounts, which then goes through my Get Sequenced routing. Also, note real quick, Kevin, it would be really nice to have like an advisory role in Get Sequenced where we can see our clients, like we can get view access or something, maybe not edit access, but the ability to view or edit multiple accounts. This would be super useful for accountants and anybody that's managing lots of clients doing stuff like this.
Right on. Good note.
And then the next one, we're going to do just another trigger by date, and we're going to transfer 70% to my client and 30% to my business checking. Now, you might be wondering, why go through all of this complication? Why do this rather than just do a flat fee? One, again, it is really nice in negotiations when you set a very low amount in the beginning, if you know you can perform. So if you're not good at your job and you're not good at what you do, then you won't make any money because you're not going to be revenuing at all. And negotiating those deals correctly and making sure that you have impact and control on that revenue is important. But I can show you a reverse version of this as well. But the last one is going to be 40-60, so 60% to my client and then 40% to my business. Now, in this specific structure, I'm essentially increasing my profit margins as this revenue comes through. My client, on the other hand, is actually losing a bit of profit margins in his business. So this structure specifically is great for growth It's not necessarily great for like a 4-year plan because you're going to start eating into your profit margins and you might not be competitive on the playing field in your industry or whatever the standard profit margins are for your business. But inversely, if you flip this around, you can also do these negotiations where maybe you're hiring a contractor, maybe you're hiring a coder or developer, and you want to incentivize them to get the job done and get the code done so that it's operational and it's making money and it's revenuing. So you can flip this and you can actually negotiate, hey, I'm going to pay you a large amount of money up front, but as the job gets done and completed, I'm going to pay you less and less money because that will increase your profit margins of your business, which then means you can use that profit to redeploy in other aspects of your business. So this works the opposite way too, where you can negotiate a lot of money up front for maybe like a one-time job or some kind of scaling off cliff so that like once their job's done, they're not making a lot of money. So yeah, that's a little creative finance for there. So is there any questions on any of this so far?
I do have a quick comment that I want to. I'm about to drop a link into the chat for everybody that's in the room. If you have platform suggestions like the one that Garen threw out, or if you have some others, we do have a frill site where we upvote those and they get actioned upon. So it's a great way, especially if you're looking for, you want to make some suggestions that we might adopt in the platform. Uh, that we do work off of it, and it helps you see what the roadmap looks like. So anyway, sorry, Gary, go ahead.
No, you're good. Okay, so Chris is asking, are you by chance creating separate sequence accounts to get each client so that they can view only dashboard? So they have their own account set up with their own LLC and their own business routing because depending on how you structure your deal, and depending on the client, they might want that revenue ran through their LLC, and then they're paying you out as a subcontractor in a 1099, or vice versa. You can collect that money internally into your system and then send it to them in whatever way that they want. But basically, there has to be trust there between the client and how you're handling that, and also. Depending on your industry and what you're doing and your relationship with the client, you might want to collect that money on your end and then parse it out to them. But currently, I don't think Get Sequenced they don't have a view only mode, do they?
There is a view only mode. So if you wanted to, like, if you're talking about like adding a partner, or at the very least you want to give somebody eyes on your money map without being in the playground environment, but you want to limit their access to what they can do, you can do that.
Okay. I would be hesitant to do that though, because I wouldn't want to give a client my entire access and view of my business financials.
Yep.
So that's kind of an issue. And Sequence was built originally for personal finance. I'm assuming you guys are you guys trying to build more for entrepreneurial business owners?
We're seeing more of that traffic. So we're
Okay.
seeing more interest from the business side of the equation, and frankly, like, that's really interesting to leadership. So I assume that you will see more of it.
Okay. I have some recommendations on that. So one thing that I was testing was actually I was having so I also do my personal finance in this, and usually I just take a really long arrow and I build a new pod and I can send it that way. But I was also experimenting with like wormholes, which is essentially having an actual inbound account. So biz inbound here, and then actually have this account right here would actually be a destination account on the other end. So you would actually take the routing and the checking of that pod right here and put it in here, and it would be this pod. So there would actually be no wire that ran from here, but that is considered an external transfer, and then it goes through an ACH, and it takes 3 to 5 days to process into your personal account rather than instantly through the pod, which is kind of annoying. But recommendation, Kevin, it would be nice to like maybe hide or maybe like reduce the transparency on some of the arrows. So like if you've got a really long route that's going away, and also maybe windows. So if I could, similar to Miro here, I actually have a lot of stuff going on. on this Miro, and I'm just looking at one window that we're doing. So being able to like window a segment of automations into get sequenced, and then taking that window only and sharing it with a client or something.
Makes sense. Good note.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, so I'm gonna go into Q&A, and I'm also gonna send you guys the a form if you guys want access to this exact playground to copy and duplicate these routing systems, as well as the subscription eliminator from Finna. I'll send you a link to that real quick. But is there any questions that anybody has right now?
I have a question if I could ask. This is Chris Bussey. Really enjoying the webinar here and appreciate everything you're sharing. I'm curious, you had identified a client business checking, and I'm curious from like a contractual and governance perspective, is that you initiating an ACH into a client account where they've given you, or is a client like giving you a login to their business checking as a user and you're logging in through Plaid to their business? Like, how do you air gap that or whatever from a
Yeah.
governance and liability perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So no, I do not like. I don't want access to their actual business accounts and stuff like that. So if they have a credit union or stuff like that, I don't want their account number. I don't want their social. I don't want to do any of that. What I do is I explain to them. I show them this system, and I just ask them if they'd be interested in doing this as a setup. And if they are interested in that, I'm like, okay, so I'll walk you through like how to do it. And basically it's just like, go to get sequenced, start your account. You're gonna have to start a business account. You'll have to put in your information, do all that stuff. And then I usually either you can send them a money map that shows how that does that. You can send them a Loom account, like this is how you set this up. Or you can jump on a Zoom call with them and walk them through it. But it's more of like an educational side of thing. But one of the reasons that that it's kind of beneficial to have the client own the get sequenced routing and all that stuff is so that they are in control of it and responsible for it.
So with that, where is the actual point of if you're doing this this kind of rev share view there within sequence? Where is the touch point where the money actually moves from what you have either received or which maybe your client has received and they're paying you? Like, how are you between these two sequences? Because I can see a couple different ways to do it, and I'm curious how you're doing it there.
Yeah, so originally I'm in the process of moving all of my banking over to Mercury because I was banking with Chase, and I just cannot stand Chase for business. It's just infuriating. Originally, our inbound system was Stripe, so we collect through Stripe. That money is then transferred to a destination account on my client's Get Sequenced. We have the waterfall structure set up on his Get Sequenced, and then we have destination ACH actions at the end that go to his credit union. And then mine goes to my Get Sequenced inbound destination account. So I'm switching that to a Mercury account, and I'm going to be collecting all of that income into a Mercury account that will then go into a Get Sequenced routing automation to route the money for taxes and all the other stuff. And on that note too, there's one more thing that I wanted to add on the. Also, I put in chat a link for you guys to, I'll send you guys an email with the money map as well as the Finna subscription eliminator and the YouTube video too, if you wanted to see that. But another thing you can do here too, when it comes to these waterfall structures, is you can do a pod for expenses. So one of the things that my client and I, technically he's a partner at this point, we route money to expenses. So there's like marketing expenses and editing expenses and different expenses that occur. So you can do like video editing expenses, and you can set it up the exact same way here with this rule. And I always like to pay expenses first. So I'm going to do an action here, and then I'm going to drag this action up, and we're going to transfer 100% of, $2,000 a month to, actually, oops, I messed that up. Let me cancel that. Let's do one more action. Transfer percentage remainder. We're going to do 100% to the video editing expenses. And then we're going to add a limit, $2,000 a month. And then if I drag this up, it's going to execute that first. So we're always paying expenses first, and then remainder goes to essentially profit split, and done. So now we have a budget per month of $2,000 for any editing or marketing expenses. And you can set that up very quickly if you're doing a partner structure.
Awesome. Garen, do you want to take a few questions?
Yeah, shoot them,
Okay.
guys.
Okay, you guys. So we're coming up on time soon, and I want to make sure that if you have questions, you have an opportunity to get them in. So feel free to drop them in the chat or come off mute, and we can take them either way. No
I
pressure.
think
I'll
I
take
think
a crack.
Clay might be in here too. No, he's not in here. The guy who started Finna.
Oh, sweet. Okay, sorry.
Oh,
Did somebody start in?
That was me, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, man. How are you, buddy? What's up, Garen? Long time no
Hey,
see,
how you
bud.
doing, man?
Good, man. Love your work, my guy. I was gonna say that I helped a client who had a bunch of Airbnbs, and we created. I know what you were talking about, but I found that for him, because he was worried about them seeing all his business, financial information, etc. We created. So basically, he had the inbound port. And I apologize, I came in late. So if you already addressed this in detail, then it's my bad. But he had his inbound account for all monies from each of the different Airbnb clients, and then he had a pod set up for his clients for each of his businesses. So he named it like Tom Smith, right? And like the address, and that was the name of the pod.
Yep.
And so he could click on the pod and always share the transactions and
Yep.
information on it, and even give him the routing information and debit card information, so they would always have access to their funds or whatever.
Yep.
But he would never share his money map. He would just show like, okay, this is, say we did $10,000 in Airbnb this month, right? Less the 20% off the top that he took, and the jack that Airbnb takes. This is, you did 10 grand in revenue. This was the fees. This is my fee. This is net what's coming to you, and that number would match what was hitting his pod. Is that a scenario that so you were saying you weren't comfortable with that, or you felt like there wasn't
So just in general, there's laws on this stuff, as well as just people's trust and comfort when it comes to viewing financials. I know exactly what you're talking about in like property management. I'm assuming you're doing property management or co-hosting.
Well, so this was actually, I'm not. It was a guy who saw me in Sequence's community and hit me up, and he's like, "Yo, I got 20 Airbnb clients, and it's getting to be insane." So he's like, "I'm trying to save time and still be laser precise and not deal with the minutia." And so we basically just came up with this waterfall for him, where he had his inbound, like, so basically each of his clients, they went to his one account and then routed to himself, and then to a pod that was named after them.
Yeah.
So
so that works, but the downside is you still have to manually go in and do those reports and all that stuff. So it gets to be the more Airbnbs or co-hosting that you add onto that system, the more manual load you're putting on as far as work. So if you're still in contact with him, I would be glad to hop on a call and consult with you guys. But Finna, so this is where Finna comes in. You can set up a page for every single Airbnb, and then connect the pods that are going to that Airbnb only, and you only see those accounts and those transactions for that specific page. Like, think of it as a Notion. Do you use Notion by chance?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
imagine it's just a Notion page, and then you can build out the expenses and the splits and whatever is occurring in the financials. You can build out a page specifically for that Airbnb, and then you can duplicate it for every single Airbnb, and then you can take that link and share it only for that Airbnb with that client, so only they see that data.
That's cool. And yeah, I've actually, you recommended that I speak with Clay. And so I've offline, I've spoken with Clay separately as well for what I'm doing. Love that guy. Love Finna. It's very cool. There's some fantastic tech solutions there. But so Finna specifically would just do a great job at firewalling the financial information and giving a quick report for each of the clients that they have. Is that it?
Yes, Finna is fantastic for a quick and dirty cash flow report. It's not great for like debt and equity or managing your investments and stuff like that. You can connect accounts, but when it comes to routing and or tracking money and building a quick thing you can look at that's visual that shows you where the money's going and what's occurring, it's really good at that.
Without having to show the money map, right? You don't have to like you
Yes.
don't have yeah. So it's like
Correct.
you want to keep your information separate, but you don't want to you separate in church and state, right?
Yes, I think you can actually take a screen. Let me actually try that real quick. I can see if I can take a screenshot and add it into the Finna. I'm pretty sure you can add it onto a Finna page.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And
You can't do screenshots. Interesting. Okay.
well, the thing too is that you could. I'm trying to think how to say this. Yeah, so we set it up so that if money hit a pod for Bob Smith, for example, right, and he's an Airbnb owner, that as soon as the money hit the pod, it would automatically transfer to his bank.
Yep.
Right. But you'd have to have them set up so that it works that way. So that was kind of a clear way to work it out. It might be a little clunky still. I know that like I use Tiller for our financial reporting. I want to migrate over to Finna, but there's still a couple things that I have a mental hang up on myself. But I love where he's going with it. But my specific point is that you are able to get a report with daily balances for every account of what the most recent transactions were. And you could kind of tailor that to the client, but I would love to see that for Finna. There's a couple things like you're having to work around. The money map is phenomenal, and to be able to get the automations around some of this so that it's super fluid is easy. I mean, it sounds like both scenarios, like it's still have to work around it with another external party, right?
Yeah, it's not. There's no perfect system yet. Kevin, if you guys want to get into financial dashboard automations, I think that's beyond the scope of sequence.
The lengthy to-do list, Garen.
I'm sure. I'm glad to hop on a call though with you, Dave, and just talk base. And I'd honestly like to hear your opinions of Finna and what it's lacking and stuff like that too.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'd love to.
Shoot me you can either message me on Instagram. That's my fastest way to communicate, or DM me on Discord. But sometimes my Discord stuff doesn't go through because I get a lot of requests.
Kevin, do you mind linking us? Yeah,
afterward? I can connect you guys. All good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Kevin can do it. Awesome.
And Dave actually brings up a good point, which is Garen, as we come up on time, like what's the best way for folks to touch base with you if they have more questions?
Yeah, so my most active and fastest way to talk is Instagram. I'm usually on it every day, and I'm starting to build out my Instagram more for marketing. But I answer DMs and stuff like there. Discord, I'm not as active, so definitely Instagram. And I've got my links to my Instagram on the form submission. So if you guys want access to all this stuff, once I'll send you an email with it as well. And the form's posted in the chat.
Awesome. By the way, before I forget, the other thing is I'm going to send all of you guys a super short 3-question, will not take you more than 30 seconds to fill it out, post event survey. We just want to know how we can help you more and what worked for you and what didn't. So if you'll just take a second and fill that out when we send it to you today, that would be amazing. Garen, thank you so much, dude. This is great. Lots of actionable insight. Really terrific questions from all of you guys today. If you didn't raise your hand and you got some, please feel free to. I'm gonna just volunteer you up, Garen. Please feel free to reach out to Garen. Also, you can get me. I'm literally Kevin at at getsequence.io or at Kevin from Sequence in the Discord community. Feel free to touch base with me anytime, any way I can be helpful. And so, really appreciate it. These are awesome. December's a weird month. Everybody's got senioritis, but it makes me really happy to be able to pull folks together for just a minute and talk shop. And I learned a ton. So, Garen, thank you again. This was really, really helpful.
Yeah, no problem, guys. And thanks for having me on here, and I enjoyed it.
All right.
I can keep going though for a little bit if you guys have any other questions. And I honestly have a question if anybody knows any other softwares similar to Finna or financial routing other than Tiller. Does anybody else use anything?
I don't know. All right. If you guys think of one or that Garen should check out or that the rest of us should know about, drop us a line. Let us know. Yeah, I think one of the most interesting perspectives in fintech, or one of the things that I think are really noteworthy about fintech, is a lot of people are really continuing to try to push the envelope and help us build a better mousetrap. And talking through some of these scenarios, specifically with regard to entrepreneurship and solopreneurs and small businesses and folks who are trying to uh, grow their livelihoods, we get to the bottom of those things more quickly through conversations like this one. So again, thank you so much, Garen. Really super appreciate you making some time for us.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, dudes. Best rest of the week. Join us tomorrow for discussion for Fireside Chat with Lettuce. You can see there's information about that that's going around. It's also posted in Discord. If you need anything from me, hit me up anytime. And Garen, thank you so much. I will see you sooner than later, hopefully.
All right. Yep.